In Luke chapter 24, after the encounter that the women have at the tomb with the two men in the dazzling clothes, Luke then shifts our attention in verse 13 to two disciples who are going to a village called Emmaus, which is about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they are talking with each other about all these things that have happened, presumably during what we call Holy Week. And this is on that same day. This is also on what we call Easter Sunday. And Luke says, while they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And we don't know how that is or why that is, but that's what the word says. And Jesus said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" Now, of course, this is humorous because Jesus knows better than anyone else exactly what's happened to him in Jerusalem in these days. But he asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth." And then they go on to describe him, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Now, what's really significant about their description is that they are remembering Jesus incorrectly. Just as the women had not remembered Jesus' words, Cleopas and the other disciple are not remembering Jesus correctly. They're complaining that he hadn't carried out his mission that they wanted to restore or redeem the nation of Israel. And they also describe him as the chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned, which makes it sound like Jesus was a victim and that he was not an agent or involved in his death on the cross. And so Jesus then challenges them. "Oh, how foolish you are and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets declared." And then describes, beginning with Moses and the prophets, all the scriptures about himself. And all this leads towards verse 32, which says, "They said to each other, 'Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?'" And Jesus had stayed with them and broken bread with them, and it was in the act of breaking bread, just as he had done at the Lord's Supper on Thursday night, and this is now Sunday afternoon, their eyes were open and they recognized him and he vanished from their sight. Were not our hearts burning within us while he opened the scriptures? Again, so important for us. It's in the pages of the Bible that we hear the story of Jesus, where we meet Jesus anew every time we read. And Jesus was not just a prophet. He was not just coming for Israel. He was not a victim. He was the Messiah. He was powerful. And he came not just for Israel, but for the whole world. I pray your hearts are burning in a spiritually good way today and in the days to come, because God sent Jesus for all of us, and God has raised him from the dead.